Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Thank you. Good morning. And again, I'd like to just sincerely welcome you all to the COTA Victorian Seniors Rights Victoria Annual General Meeting 2023. Sitting beside me is the COTA Victoria Board, and we'll do introductions shortly. But before we do, just some housekeeping, please. We do have also quite a few people who are joining us online via Zoom as well. So just be aware that this is being streamed and recorded via Zoom. And you'll see that on the screen at some point today. So good morning, and I'm Chris Pataris, if I haven't met you. I'm the CEO of COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria. Just in relation to some housekeeping matters, for those of you that are joining us via Zoom, this AGM is being recorded. Throughout the meeting this morning, only scheduled speakers will have their cameras and microphones turned on. Those joining by Zoom will have a view of the current speaker, and we'll make sure that, that we share slides on your screens when appropriate. There'll be a few opportunities for questions for everybody, both online via the chat and certainly in person. If you're using Zoom, questions can be raised by emailing your questions to cotavic@cotavic.org.au, and they're monitored live. So cotavic@cotavic.org.au. Questions received during the AGM will be collated and asked by the moderator on your behalf at the end of the formal presentation. So we have a very structured and quite a full agenda for our members today. So we want to stay on time. We're a little bit late already. Those in person will have an opportunity to raise questions, preferably, again, at the end of the course of events today. But if there's a pressing question you have, then by all means raise your hand. In relation to any motions relating to the minutes, financials or other matters, I encourage you to use the raise hand function for the people on Zoom on the bottom of your screen. Or you can type your response using the chat function, also found on the bottom of your screen. If you're having any technical difficulties, please let Steve Wright, the moderator, he'll be moderating online, and he'll be monitoring your live questions or chats or issues or technical issues, and hopefully he can resolve them. If you can't use the chat function for whatever reason, then email cotavic@cotavic.org.au. Again, it's monitored live, and we can talk you through it. Just for the people in the room, please, again, mobile phones, I would encourage you to please have them on silent or off, just for the courtesy of everyone else and for the flow of events. So I'd like to officially kick off. Before I do, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting. In our case, in COTA Victoria offices today, it's the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations. We pay our respects to their continuing culture and all elders past, present and emerging who've taught their children, adults and communities for over 65,000 years on these great lands, the oldest living culture in the world. And I note that sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So I'd like to thank again people who've made the time and effort to come in today. You're absolutely more than welcome. And welcome to our formal annual general meeting for 2023. I'd like to acknowledge a few of our past presidents, one that's in the room actually. So the first one I'd like to acknowledge the immediate past is Greg Nichols, who was our president in 2020. Michael Esky, who's in the room with us today, from 2017. Dr. Kathy Mead, 2015. Ian Jungworth, 2013. And Janet Wood, 2012. I'd also like to formally acknowledge our honorary life members, John Douch, Patrick Moore, Patricia Reeve, John Wise, Bethia Stevenson, and Shirley Ramsey, who this room is named after. The only formal apology I have today is from Louisa Gibbs, a good friend of ours, who's the CEO of the Federation of Community Legal Centres. I'd also like to acknowledge, I believe online, we have representatives from Carers Victoria and Older Tenants, or HAG, or Housing for the Aged Action Group. Welcome them as well. And I'd like to now formally introduce the person to my left or your right, COTA Victorian Seniors Rights Victoria AGM Chair and President, Robert Caulfield, to say a few words.
Thanks. Thank you, Chris, and welcome to everybody who has joined us today. Now, some really interesting things have happened in the last few weeks, and I want to briefly talk about these with you. They're not necessarily about COTA to start off. Firstly, Paul McCartney performed to sellout crowds in several venues throughout Australia at the age of 80. Mick Jagger performed on stage in England, so jumping around like a teenager at 81. Just recently, Willie Nelson, you all know Willie, at 90 years old, made this amazing statement. He said that the young millennials and Generation Zs in our society had better work out what sort of world they want to leave for him and for Keith Richards, because they ain't going nowhere. I think that's quite amazing. And we're all wondering which 80-year-old will be running the United States in the next few years. Don't know if any good's going to come out of that one, but we'll wait and see. But I think this is all really quite amazing. It shows today that people in their 70s, 80s, 90s can keep working, keep contributing to society, many as volunteers, and be really valuable. Never before in history have our seniors had such an involvement. Never before has there been so much potential. Ladies and gentlemen, what I believe, and I truly believe this, is that getting older is not a burden, which is we're often told about that, the burden of the age on society. It's not a burden, it's a privilege, actually, because when you think about it, it's not a burden because it's a privilege, because many of us don't make it. So the ones that are left are very privileged to be in that case. But we all need to embrace getting older, work with it, and help lift the others up. But there is still a dark side where many seniors are left behind or abused or not respected or forgotten or lonely or made fun of. And that's ageism. And that's the next area of discrimination our society needs to deal with. We all know that we can't tell jokes about race or gender. Someone will pull us into line. That's what needs to happen with jokes and inappropriate comments about older people. It needs to be called out. No more boomer jokes. Thank you. COTA Victoria is dealing with all of these things and will have a dramatic impact in coming years for the betterment of all senior Victorians and senior Australians. COTA Vic and Seniors Rights Victoria have gone through a period of considerable restructuring since the appointment of our new CEO, Chris Pataris, in July 2022. The changes made by Chris and the board and the team have resulted in some dramatic achievements. We are now in a very strong position, the best we've seen for many, many years. We've reported a surplus of $168,000 in the 2022-23 financial year, following several years of losses or near break-evens when everyone in COTA and the management of COTA was wondering how we're going to achieve to fix this. Furthermore, despite the state government making across-the-board cuts affecting almost all not-for-profit organisations, of which COTA is one, we've been able to secure full funding for COTA for the next 4 years, and that's never been achieved before. So it's all good news. The renewed strategic direction and restructure has led to a completely new senior management team of excellent people, I have to say. I know most of them. With well-defined roles allowing us to develop a number of new programs and expand some of our existing ones. We've also secured a huge number of funders, funders, corporate supporters and partners. And I'd like to list those for you and formally thank each and every one of them for their support of COTA. There's quite a number of them, so stick with them. Australian Government Department of Education, Skills and Employment, Australian Government Department of Health and Aged Care, Australian Government Department of Social Services, Australian Government's Attorney General's Department, Australian Human Rights Commission, Barwon Community Legal Centre, Better Place Australia, Carers Victoria, Community Legal Centres Australia, Consumer Affairs Victoria, COTA Australia, COTA Insurance, and COTA Holidays. Anyone think about going on holidays or getting insurance? If you go through COTA, I've done it. Been on the GAN, going on the India Pacific next year, booked through COTA Holidays. It is really good, and you get great discounts. Elder Abuse Action Australia, Elders Rights Advocacy, Ethnic Communities of Victoria, Equity Trustees. You've probably noticed by now that I'm reading these out alphabetically, and I'm only up to E. So, going on. Federation of Community Legal Centres, Golden Days Radio 95.7 FM, Gunditjmara Aboriginal Cooperative, Justice Connect, Maddox Lawyers, Municipal Association Victoria, Office of the Public Advocate, RACV Club, Safe and Equal, Southeastern Melbourne Primary Health Network, Sport and Recreation Victoria, State Trustees Australia Foundation, State Trustees Limited Grant from Lillian May Doherty, State Trustees Limited Wholehearted Giving, Bell's LGBTI Aging and Aged Care, part of La Trobe University, Victorian Council of Social Services, Victorian Government Department of Education, Victorian Government Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, Victorian Government Department of Health, Victorian Government Department of Jobs, Skills, Industry and Region, Victorian Government Department of Justice and Community Safety, Victorian Law Foundation, Victorian Legal Aid. We're now up to V in my list. There are no supporters under W, X, Y or Z, you'll be pleased to know. But there will be next year. Hang in there. That's our objective. We're working through the alphabet. We've also been able to get really good government support, ministerial support over the last couple of years. Minister Lizzie Blandthorne was previously the Minister for Disability, Ageing and Carers, and currently Minister for Children and Minister for Disability. And the current Minister, Minister Ingrid Stitt, currently the Minister for Ageing, Minister for Mental Health, and Minister for Multicultural Affairs. We have lifted our profile with unprecedented media coverage on TV, radio, social and print media. We've engaged with state and federal government departments that we haven't previously engaged with. This work will continue at an increased rate in coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of COTA looks very bright indeed. COTA Vic Seniors Rights Victoria Division continued to be a state leader in fighting elder abuse. While state government budget cuts have curtailed some of our work in this area, we're working closely with the state government to overcome this. As President, I owe my gratitude to the board, who are all volunteers, and to the dedicated team of 30 staff at COTA, COTA Victoria and SOV, and our 130 volunteers for the successes we've achieved over the last 12 months. This year, two of our long-standing board members, Mike Lesky and Graham Bird, have retired after 9 years of service to COTA. Stand up, Mike and Graham, both here. Mike and Graham. Both Mike and Graham have been instrumental in positioning COTA as Victoria's peak seniors organisation, and they've both committed thousands of hours of time and professional expertise. Mike, Graham, the board thanks you for the skills, knowledge and unparalleled dedication you've given us over the last 9 years. Now, Graham has agreed to become the board's chairperson representative on the Omni program. That's Older Men, New Ideas. And through Graham, we intend to build Omni into a dynamic program addressing the mental health of older men. It's pretty well known that males over 80 have one of the highest rates of mental health problems and suicide, and we will tackle that. The board has welcomed 5 new members this year too. Tanya O'Connor, Tanya is here, Hayley Hunter, Professor Mark Scott is here with us too. And in recent weeks, Ray Cummings and Karen Mansour, a former Commissioner for Senior Victorians. They join our remaining current directors, Catherine Brown, Mary Downey, Peter Conliffe, and myself. And each of these directors have taken on important tasks in addition to their board roles. Our new team of board members and staff are planning several exciting initiatives which will further strengthen COTA status in Victoria and throughout Australia. We will soon be implementing a completely new membership structure so that individual memberships will be free, and a range of new paid corporate memberships will increase our income substantially. So we expect our membership to grow from the hundreds into the tens of thousands. Paul, I was speaking with you before about ringing up our members. You're going to have a busy year, mate, next year. We rely heavily on our teams of volunteers, about 130 of them, and I'm pleased that we are in the final stages and implementing a new volunteer program that includes training, recruitment, internal and external recognition. We've developed a fee-for-service program where our COTA staff can provide training and awareness sessions for corporations, state and local government, assisting them to deal with ageism in their own organisations. This was launched in September and will generate thousands of dollars of additional income, as well as providing an invaluable service. That's a real winner here. We've developed a new strategic relationships with all levels of government. We'll be using these to further our work. COTA Vic is now the largest of the state COTAs, and over the past year, we've been assisting COTA Australia and other state COTAs to expand their own presence in their respective areas. We will continue to make COTA stronger throughout Australia. We have a number of new projects in the development phase, partly inspired by the recently retired Commissioner for Senior Victorians, Gerard Mansour. Thank you, Gerard, for your advice and guidance. We look forward to working with you as our newest director. Gerard has also expressed a keen interest in being involved with COTA Australia as well. And this week, I'm pleased to confirm that I formally nominated him for a board position with COTA Australia, which will be ratified soon. COTA Victoria leading the way. Finally, I thank all of the members of COTA for your ongoing support and look forward to engaging with you all and experiencing an even greater success over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. So I've got a rather important address to give to our members and people in the room and online. And it covers quite a few things, and I just need you to bear with me while I go through these. There's a lot of really important messages to impart. I commenced as CEO in July 22, so it's about just a bit under 18 months. And a lot has changed for us as an organisation that has at its core two peak bodies with a clear charter to protect and represent all Victorians in this state. That's COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria, respectively. I commenced in July with purpose, rigour, vision and a sense of optimistic excitement. To suggest that my first 7 to 8 months were profoundly busy and a period of intense competing priorities would be an understatement. It was and continues to be a focused time for all COTA Victoria staff, stakeholders, volunteers and a broader community that we serve. Our organisation is resilient. We have passionate and dedicated staff and volunteers who work tirelessly on behalf of the communities they serve. The relevance, viability and quality of our work depends on our relationships with federal, state and local governments, community and health organisations and philanthropic trusts. We continue to move forward into a new era of diversifying our revenue streams through renewed membership models, the provision of a fee-for-service professional education function for Seniors Rights Victoria, ongoing comprehensive submissions for program and service delivery grants that will increase our organisational revenue significantly, as well as ensure that we continue to deliver the best services to our communities and our membership for another 72 years. I'm very grateful for our ongoing collaborative and strong working relationship with all tiers of the Victorian government. The strengthening of the relationships with multiple government stakeholders has been a keen focus of COTA Victoria, Seniors Rights Victoria, me and the board for over the past 18 months or so in particular. I thank the Victorian State Government for providing us 4 years of funding, as Rob mentioned, for COTA Vic and Seniors Rights Victoria, or SRV as I'll refer to them. This ensures that our staff in particular have some semblance of job security as they continue their hard work. It also ensures that the continuity of programs and services for the people that need it most, the older Victorians that we represent. As I briefly mentioned, past year has seen some profound change for COTA Vic and SRV respectively, both internally and externally as peak bodies and organisations. We've never been in a stronger financial position, as Rob mentioned. We've never had a more robust professional business model or practices. We've never had a more comprehensive strategic direction and vision, culminating in the development of 23 strategic initiatives that act as an evidence-based roadmap for our success. Nothing we do is done by chance. Everything is staged and mapped. My 7 senior management team members, most of which will be doing presentations to all of you shortly to give a really good understanding of what they do for our membership in our communities. They're all new. They've all started within the last 12 months. I personally, and I'm sure the board would agree with me, couldn't have envisaged what a significant change in our organisational culture this would yield. The internal culture and support amongst all areas of our organisation is inspirational. The outcomes represent organisations, departments and teams that fully support each other, work collaboratively for the greater good of the people we serve. Policy and advocacy have been at the heart of driving our strategy, engagement, vision, policy and advocacy outcomes and positions for the older cohort of people we represent across our great state. Our policy and advocacy team continue to grow from strength to strength as we begin to realise the fruits of our tireless work and strategic vision. The volume and calibre of work performed by the policy and advocacy team over the past year speaks for itself. Ben will give you a bit of insight of that. Some of the specific highlights that I need to mention that are relevant for an AGM in particular, numerous submissions with federal and state government bodies, as well as the highest quality of evidence-based funding and budget submissions for the 24-25 state budget. We've never represented the people we serve in a more articulate, evidence-based or justified manner before. This has been reiterated by multiple federal and state government stakeholders we've liaised with throughout the year. Calibre of our submissions and our measurement and evaluation and evidence-based approach underpins everything we do in this organisation moving forward. And this underpins the essence of a peak body. We should be the entity that the government goes to prosecute every program they need prosecuting. So we have a very strong, at least a strong credibility base to do that moving forward in a much broader sense. It's important to note that, as Rob has mentioned in his address, we are now the largest and most secure of all COTA peak bodies throughout Australia. One of the pillars of COTA Vic's strategies in relation to rights is to maintain the position of Seniors Rights Victoria. SRV are the only dedicated statewide specialist community legal centre providing information, legal and social work advice and casework to prevent elder abuse. We've been operating SRV for around 15 years. And we're still the only statewide entity that do that, specialise just in prevention of or response to elder abuse. I personally regard the growth in the impact and effectiveness of Seniors Rights Victoria as an important achievement for our organisation. There's no doubt the work of this unique community legal centre is vital as SRV continue to be the leading organisation in our state, fighting the growth of elder abuse within our communities, the scourge of elder abuse. The introduction of a dedicated fee-for-service model is also a very positive thing for us moving forward. We were, however, and it's important that members know this and the community knows this, we were impacted quite significantly by the Department of Family Fairness and Housing, or DFFH, decision to cut a portion of core funding for Seniors Rights Victoria in the 23rd of May state budget. Essentially, there was only a very small portion of the budget cut, what we call our core budget, which is the rolling budget we have over normally three, but we've got 4 years. However, one of the oversights was also a one-off grant to assist in urgent assistance needed for the helpline, the servicing and manning of the helpline, which is a statewide telephone service. They didn't renew that grant. So in essence, there was about $230,000 per year cut for SRV. What does that mean on the ground? At coalface, it means that we could only budget to ensure we have that integrated model that we provide at Seniors Rights Victoria, integrated model of service, being receiving calls, triaging them, prioritising them, maybe allocating them to caseworkers and lawyers and advocates. We could only have one person or one equivalent, full-time equivalent person role to essentially service a statewide helpline. I think we'd all agree that it's manifestly inadequate. So that was a bit of an issue. Unfortunately for Seniors Rights Victoria, the immediate result was the resignation of a very long-term, highly valued member advocate servicing the helpline. And she unfortunately resigned after 6 weeks only. Tremendous amount of pressure, one person, one human being, fielding and trying to triage horrendous stories of older people suffering elder abuse. It's not doable. One human being cannot do that. So we bounced back fairly quickly, and Avatel Camille, who's the manager and principal lawyer of SAV, and I decided that we would split that role into two. So it's still one, we still don't have funding for one person, but we've got two people servicing that. It's still unfortunately manifestly inadequate. However, we have a very strong relationship with the Department of Family Fairness and Housing. In particular, we have meetings. I have a meeting with my policy manager, I think on the 19th of December, with Minister Ingrid Stitt in her new role. She's agreed to meet us on the 19th. I have a meeting with the Secretary of the Department, the Deputy Secretary of the Department, coming up in the next week or so. So we are pushing really, really hard. And we have an evidence base to do it. Our service that we provide through SRV is absolutely critical to help older people at the coalface. So again, just touching on SRV, it's really important to note that our manager and principal lawyer really has hit the ground running and flourished in her new role, opening up SRV to a new era of collaboration, cross-functional and cross-departmental cooperation and strategy sharing. The needs of older Victorians will always differ according to age, capabilities, financial situation, and other circumstances of very diverse groups, especially marginalised and vulnerable older Victorians. This morning, I will just briefly touch on a couple of things that are important. One of the recurring and important priorities is to ensure contact with our members and the older people who rely on our services. This has been quite challenging this year, not only due to the after effects of and the questionable ongoing pandemic matters, but also as a result of some of the significant challenges faced by many Victorians due to financial stresses caused by the cost of living crisis, profound housing issues, particularly for older women, who are one of the most sort of critical cohorts for homelessness, rental crisis, health issues and health costs, and just many, many other challenges. We continue to recognise the social isolation and fear about the pandemic, natural disasters, ageism, cost of living and other significant challenges are particularly serious issues for older people. Our marketing and comms manager, Steve Wright, will present some of the unique ways we've significantly ramped up the awareness of some of these issues in his presentation, as well as some of the unique thought leadership-based initiatives we're undertaking. Again, I think I'm going to just move forward. Just a couple of things. So that there's some really important things that you need to know about. We work alongside many other community organisations. We've worked to bring older people into the digital world so they could join in while staying at home. At the same time, we've advocated for equal access to services and information for those who couldn't move online or simply chose not to. I extend my sincere thanks to my team for their dedication to the work on behalf of older Victorians. That work is to ensure that decision makers, including government, business and community leaders, are aware of the unique challenges that many older Victorians face. These challenges include, but are not limited to, circumstances that lead to elder abuse, cost of living, ageism, housing and rental affordability, loss of employment, reducing income, communication that doesn't recognise the cultural diversity of older Victorians, marginalised or vulnerable older Victorians that slip through the gaps, difficulty reaching relatives in aged care with contact, love and support, assistive technology, digital exclusion for older Victorians, and a matter that will be becoming, I think, a bit of a hot button issue moving forward, adult safeguarding. If you're not sure what adult safeguarding is, essentially it protects every person's right to live safely and free in your own home. That'll be a focus of ours moving forward as well. The older men, new ideas are Omni. We have quite a few representatives here today. Continues to reach older men and to focus, excuse me, to focus on extending their reach more broadly in other regions of our state. Unfortunately, it also suffers from a distinct lack of any program funding. It certainly has so in the 18 months I've sat in this chair. It's having to rely on spending an inordinate amount of their time. This is the Omni groups, seeking nominal funding from local government or other means. I did recently implement an internal process where our corporate services and finance teams assist Omni members and their representatives with professionally preparing and submitting external applications for funding. I've taken a more hands-on approach in relation to the future of the Omni program moving forward. There's still a lot of work to do in the funding space where our dedicated and valuable Omni groups, competing priorities, quite transparent, have hampered our ability to drop everything, inverted commas, and focus purely on seeking dedicated funding for the Omni groups. However, I'll give not only everyone in this room, but everyone online and all our members very firm commitment, my commitment, that I'll endeavour for that to change as we enter the new year. There's work that I'll be doing with the Omni board nominated representative, Graham Bird, moving forward in relation to the establishment of a new advisory committee and other functions. The sole blinkered focus of that group will be to define the narrative of what Omni is. What is the difference between Omni and Men's Shed? There are a number of things that need to be looked at with Omni. So I'll be taking a very, very close hands-on approach in relation to that with one objective: to define an evidence-based narrative to be able to put something forward to a proposed funder. That's my commitment to the group. Okay. We've covered about enough. I'm very excited at the prospects for COTA Victoria for the coming years ahead. There are many other exciting opportunities for innovative programs and services that I'm looking at with my team. I'll continue to advise our members. Just as a wrap up, I sincerely thank my staff for their remarkable effort during the past year and our highly valued volunteers for the support of for contributing to inform our activities. I have a very heartfelt and sincere thank you to my president, Rob Caulfield, and the COTA Victoria board in particular, who are extremely inclusive and supportive board, particularly for a CEO who should have the autonomy to run the organisation in a structured manner, and I certainly have that with this board. So, on that note, that's my address to the members and the people in the room. So what I'm going to do, we're going to move forward with the events. There's some really, really important presentations that will be given to the team now. What I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Ben to stand up and set up the lectern. So I'll introduce now, just for the benefit of the people in the room and online, and the online participants should also see now on your screens the presentation that we're seeing on the tellies in the room. So Ben is the COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria Policy and Advocacy Manager.
Hi all, my name is Ben Rogers. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager at COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria. And I'm excited today to talk to you about what we achieved through the 2022-23 year, and a bit more about the role of the Policy and Advocacy team. So, first of all, we probably have to encounter a bit of what Chris mentioned there, but there has been a lot of change in the P&A team. I got to celebrate my first year anniversary at COTA Victoria yesterday. Along with a number of the other management teams, which has been really exciting. But even more broadly in the P&A team, we've had a total renewal, which has been really, really exciting. So we currently have Martin Turnbull, our senior policy advisor, and even within this new financial year, we've had some more turnover with John Mark Kirban joining us as our advocacy and elder abuse advisor. And the great thing about having a new team is it's really allowed us to start to look at what we're doing and where we could perhaps make some improvements and build on what our predecessors have done. So as part of this, we've had a really renewed focus on systemic policy and advocacy, really seeing at how we can make sure that COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria are dealing with these system issues that affect a broad number or large number of older Victorians, and how we can make sure that we're involved in that sort of decision-making process, particularly in the Victorian government, but also looking towards the Commonwealth and also looking towards local government as well. And as part of this, we've had a real big emphasis on sector leadership. We are the peak body for older Victorians, and we want to make sure that we are the leaders on ageing, where they, the government comes to us and seeks our opinion, and we can certainly guide and direct them as best as possible. So a key part, of course, around policy is making sure that your stakeholders know what you think and that you tell them what older people are thinking. And so a key part of that for us is submissions. So over the year, we developed 9 submissions, which is more than double the amount we achieved in the previous financial year. And this occurred on a really diverse number of policy topics. I won't run through them all, but if you look at there, we have infrastructure, we have retirement villages, road safety, electricity prices, and not least withstanding the budget submission as well. And so we have to cover a lot of aging topics, which can be exciting and really interesting, but also it allows us to find narratives that connect and go through our work. And that's something I've been really proud of over the last year. We've been able to find some straight lines that connect our work so we can build a body of work that we can draw on and highlight and advocate around. The other key aspect, especially around advocacy, is engagement. So over the year, we had a real emphasis on trying to meet and grow our reputation with ministers. So we were really pleased to meet with the Minister for Disability, Ageing and Carers a number of times in a number of different forms, as well as meetings and engagements with the Minister for Regional Development and the Minister for Gender Equality. The key thing around these engagements is trying to make sure that our views are represented. So the key highlights for us around that are particularly, we had an opportunity to feedback around the Victorian Households Concessions Programme, with which we launched a survey through COTA Connect, where we sought the views of our community and membership, and we're able to feed that back to the department, and including a meeting as well as our submission. We also attended the Victorian Health Summit, and we were the only sort of ageing representatives there, and we were really able to highlight the issues that older people are facing and highlight how the system should be reacting to the fact we have an ageing population. We really engage extensively across the Victorian government, going beyond perhaps our more natural home of the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, and trying to make sure that ageing is represented in all different departments that interact with older Victorians or have impacts on them. So we were involved in over 100 meetings, which was a roughly 18% increase. So it's, as well as quality, it's also about quantity as well. That's half the job. So we're really pleased to achieve that. So I'd like to run through some key achievements. The great thing about policy and advocacy is that we are nothing without what the broader organisation does, whether it's programs, whether it's activities. We tend to rely on what everyone else does so that we can augment and highlight and drive change. So particularly the Old Not Alone campaign, which Steve, our marketing manager, will cover in comms manager, will cover in greater detail. But stemming from that, we had a big advocacy effort to reach key stakeholders. And ultimately, we held 10 meetings with over 30 government stakeholders, officials, including ministers, secretaries, DepSecs, EDs, the whole way down. And the great thing about that is that's stuff that we're starting to build up in this new financial year. We also advocated for and received a new 4-year service agreement from GFFH, which for the P&A team means we have funding certainty for 4 years for at least part of our funding, but also crucially for a number of other programs as well. And it's always great when you can see that your advocacy work has an impact. So we were really pleased to see that the Victorian default offer around electricity pricing, was adapted based on the feedback from, around the financial impact being faced by consumers, which included our own submission. I won't run through all of them, but, we did also launch an election platform for the 2022 state election, which we were really, really pleased to be able to flow over into our state budget advocacy. which we launched earlier this year. We have really been able to build connections in departments beyond DFFH, and that is a continuing focus and priority for us to make sure that ageing is represented. But a couple of other key highlights for us included creating a resource and holding 2 webinars on inclusive communications for Commonwealth Home Support Programme providers as part of our Commonwealth Home Support Sector Support and Development funding, while our feedback was included into the final report, which looked at the inquiry and support for older Victorians from migrant and refugee backgrounds, when we were really pleased to see our recommendations reflected there. We also continue to lead the Assisted Technology for All Alliance, which included key meetings with Commonwealth officials. And we are very, very excited to see what occurs with the NDIS review, which is due to launch next month. And yeah, it's been great to see this work, which we have continued into the 23-24 financial year. And I know we're only 5 months in, but I could probably do another 7 minutes there. So thank you all so much. I will go on to there. Any questions? As Chris said, please make a note of them, and we will deal with them at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Ben. Now I'd like to invite our Education and Engagement Manager, Frankie Friend.
Hi, I'm Frankie. I'm the Education Engagement Manager here at COTA Victoria. We've got a number of different programs that sit underneath the education and engagement area. What I'll talk to you today about is primarily our employment support programs and our information lifelong learning programs, which are our programs that are currently funded into the next year. I'll also touch base on some of our previously funded programs and kind of give a little bit of a background of some of the work that we've done, which will lead into our future work. I'm in the same boat as Ben. I'm celebrating my 1-year anniversary here at COTA, which means, like Ben's team, my team's had a number of changes throughout the past year. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to welcome aboard our education and engagement team workers, Liz Leverage and Catherine Spencer. They're both fantastic at their role and very bubbly and warm to speak to. If you call our Ask COTA line, you'll speak to Liz, and Liz is a one-stop shop for anything you want to know from the Ask COTA line. So she's very knowledgeable and engaging, and I'm very thankful to have her as part of the team. Catherine is our project support officer who works primarily in our employment support space. Catherine also is very knowledgeable in that space, having had a long background in working with individuals and other organisations in the employment and general support area. Our information lifelong learning program composes 2 main areas. One is our Ask COTA information service, including the Ask COTA line. In the 2022 and 2023 period, we've had approximately 2,000 contacts for that period. That includes emails and phone calls. Having said that, one of the things we focused on over that time is improving our data collection processes, because whilst I say we've had approximately 2,000 contacts for that period, I actually have a sense that prior to my beginning in this role, we've probably done a lot more work. We just haven't been able to collect the data we need to accurately reflect the fantastic work that COTA does. So there's been a massive drive in that space from my team to make sure all our data collection processes are really reflecting not only what we do, but what we're hearing from a grassroots perspective. We use all that information that we hear from older people, older Victorians, to inform our programs and our program development. One of the main things that I enjoy most about working for COTA is it's not me here developing programs based on what I think older Victorians want. We're here to make sure older Victorians have an impact in developing that policy, and the improved data collection process of the Ask COTA information line is one of those key aspects of that. There's some other kind of internal reporting processes that we've refreshed to make sure our connection with the policy advocacy team and other teams means we're reflecting back what we're hearing at the grassroots level. But I think it's really important to touch base on. I think we've probably done far more work than we were able to accurately reflect before. And we really hope that going into the future, we'll have some really robust data to share with everyone. You'll see there, I guess it's quite small on the screen. So I'll talk to that graph a little bit. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the primary reasons for the people contacting the Ask COTA service. One, to highlight the kind of work we do, but two, to highlight the issues that I guess are existing and emerging for our organisation. Aged care or aged care related inquiries, or issues around ageing, like planning and retirement, continue to be a massive proportion of the work we do. With the changes to the My Aged Care process now going into the future, I don't expect that to change. Some of our other work in our information lifelong learning area, I will talk about later, in terms of how we kind of support people to get that information. I'll talk about that, but I think right now it's primarily something that they come to COTA for. Even though the information exists elsewhere, COTA, I guess, is the ability to be that one-stop shop, as well as the work we do with CareFinder as well. It's all connected, and we all try and mirror that kind of idea about making sure older people have the information that is relevant and that they need. The second area is government services or navigation support of government services like Centrelink, like MyGov, and other I guess main service areas. This is kind of primarily an information and referral process. We don't necessarily go into the process of supporting people through the service navigation individually, but we'll point them in the right direction. Liz has got a great repository of the kind of different referrals or different pathways people can take in that area. And again, it's about making sure people are able to access the information that works for them. Currently, a lot of those services just have that information online only. That's why the Ask COTA line or the email service is really important to make sure we can see whether people have the ability to navigate that in an online only manner. The third biggest chunk is health and wellbeing, which includes social supports and physical health supports. That's a myriad of different things. It could be referrals to the Omni program. It could be talking about the former Living Longer, Living Stronger program or other physical health activities, or it might just be some council-based social support activities or planned activity groups. What's emerging currently is that little 3% marker. At the time of the recording of this data, that was 3% of the work that we did on the information lifelong learning line. And it was housing and particularly rental issues or issues about people who are renting. That's increased massively over the past 6 months to the start of the new financial year. But that's not to say it wasn't a decent chunk of the work that we did. The other I guess 20% of the work that we do could be varied, and it's could be ranging from just individual issues trying to navigate a health service, or it could be anything or anywhere, anything. That's the kind of motto of the COTA line at the moment, is we try and make sure we can cover a lot of different areas. One of the ways we try and make sure that people don't necessarily have to just rely on the Ask COTA line is through our outreach and community information sessions. In the past year, we spoke or presented to over 750 people across 29 community groups. We also had done some government professional development sessions and community organisation pathways, which was aimed at making sure community organisations were developing their programs in line with what the other needs of older Victorians. There was some work done in age-friendly consultations prior to my beginning at the organisation, and it's a fantastic program that I've had some great chats with Karen, who was a key driver in the past of that program, about how we can embed some of that into our work going forward. Again, there's a focus on the improved data collection, including now satisfaction measures. feeding into our KPIs for our education outreach. That's because we want to know that the information that we're sending out there is relevant to people, and also that people are getting something out of our sessions. There's no point doing sessions for the sake of doing sessions or because it's a KPI if the older people that we deliver to aren't satisfied with the content that we have. The second kind of main part of the education engagement program is related to economic participation, primarily the working together employment mentoring programs. In the past, we've had the Locals Working Together, which is a place-based initiative. That was completed in November last year and was based in Northern Metropolitan Melbourne. We currently have our Carers Employment Support Program and our Women Working Together program. The Carers Employment Support Program finishes December and is, as the name suggests, aimed at carers over 50. The Women Working Together program is a new program that we'll be developing and ends mid 2025, but it's a new program based on a previous model, and that's for women over 50 to 64. Yep. Sorry. I'll just briefly touch base about the volunteering program. That's some information about what we've been doing in the volunteering space. I'm assuming that the slides will be available for people, so I'll just leave that up there rather than talk to those points. And finally, our other programs in the education engagement space is the Living Longer, Living Stronger Access Abilities program, which we completed in May 2023 and had some resources for exercise practitioners, particularly to support people from deaf and blind communities, and the work that we do on the Omni groups in terms of some of the things that we've achieved in the past year is we've updated the handbook and we've acquitted a grant from the Nillumbuk Shire. So that's me. Thank you for your time. Sorry, I went a little bit over and I'll pass you over to Angus.
It wasn't just you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I apologise for speeding up, Frankie, but we started late and we're running a bit behind. We'll make sure we stay on track. Introducing Angus Kerr. Angus is our Care Finder Program Manager. He's going to get through this.
Thanks, Chris. I'll do my best. Yeah, so Care Finder is the new program for COTA Victoria that works directly with older people. Our focus is on intensive casework and assertive outreach. So just to give you a bit of an overview over the past 12 months, from July to December last year, we were still in the thick of working on the aged care system navigator trials. And September to November, we actually then tendered for the Care Finder program. We awarded that program in December, and what that allowed us to do is take out the team that was working in the aged care system navigator team, Karen, Ivanka, Gemineve and myself, to be able to move across to the Care Finder team. We were successful and we were awarded the Care Finder program to work in the Southeast Melbourne PHN Primary Health Network region with a focus on the city of Kingston. So background with Care Finder, there was a universal sort of acknowledgement that the aged care system is complex. Some people have more difficulty than others navigating that system. The Royal Commission recommended that there be a dedicated navigation workforce, and out of the aged care system navigator trials, the Care Finder program came. The one key difference, I guess, between the two programs is that with the aged care system navigator trial, we could actually work with anybody needing navigation assistance. But with the Care Finder program, the focus is working with the most vulnerable people in our community. As I said, we're trying to work with people, we're trying to identify and work with people who have significant difficulty accessing aged care and services, and who would traditionally be falling through the gaps if there wasn't a service to support them. So our target group, who are these vulnerable older people? They need to have to receive care finder support. A person must not have any care or support person who can help them, or not have a support person that they feel comfortable with or they can trust. And they need to be eligible for government funded aged care. So that is people who are 65 and over, or 50 and over, who are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. And these people need to have assistance with some everyday living tasks. Added to that, they need to have one or more of the following reasons. So they need to have either difficulty communicating because of language and literacy problems, find it difficult to understand information and make decisions, be reluctant to engage with aged care or government, or they may be in an unsafe situation if they don't receive services. A big part of our work, I guess, and the assumption that's proved correct, is that the target group we're trying to reach are difficult to actually find. So our assumption was they're not going to be knocking on our door looking for assistance. So with that in mind, we had to have extensive engagement and network building with local community. And that's around sort of building relationships with the communities we're working within. So especially with professionals and community groups. That would then allow us to identify these people we're trying to work with, and establish referral pathways where we're expecting, and it's proved to be true, we're expecting that the people we're working with don't come to us first, they're seen by someone else in the community. So we're trying to develop those referral pathways and relationships with people to be able to generate that referrals to CareFinder. And the last thing is we're trying to complement services that are already out there and not duplicate those. We have come across organisations who say we're doing the same thing, we're doing the same sort of work, but over time we're developing those sort of relationships and making it clear to people and different organisations, hey, you're doing some of this work, but we're here now, you can now focus on some of your strengths. Examples being community nurses who have been trying to link people into services, but we've been able to partner up with them and they can then focus on the health aspects of people's lives. Some of the highlights, we've been able to recruit a full team. So as I mentioned before, Gemma Neve and Karen Ivanka and myself came across from the Aged Care System Navigator. And in August, we were able to recruit Melissa Arnier, who's hit the ground running. We've spoken with, we've done 23 assertive outreach activities. So we're speaking to as many people as possible as we can to develop those referral pathways. But we're trying to target those we feel most likely to come across our target group. So we're trying to be quite specific in terms of whom we target. And lastly, we've done 31 intensive, worked with 31 clients intensively with. And part of our work, I guess, is when we're working with those clients is that we're trying to do a holistic assessment, identify what needs they have, and link them to services and support.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce our marketing communications manager, who's also going to do a very, very swift presentation.
And that's my time. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Steve Wright. I'm the marketing comms manager. I don't have a team slide because I'm the team. I wanted to thank everyone in attendance. I know it's a bit cozy in here, but thank you for fitting in so well. Make sure you eat all the stuff at the back of the table, because there's a lot of food there. And to the people online, hello. Sorry that you've probably seen the back of my head a couple times as I'm trying to get in and out of the seat. We wanted to move to a room like this so we could host people online. We kind of went backwards, really. We were all in person, nothing but in person. And there were obviously people that wanted to attend online, so welcome. I'll go really quick. I started in February, but March really. So my stats kind of start then. There wasn't really anyone in my role before that time. As you can see on my two fantastic little tiles there that I made, they're gorgeous, as is this annual report, which is at the back as well. Please grab one. We had around 670,000 page views across our suite of websites. There were 6, there are 5 now. COTA Victoria, Seniors Rights Victoria, obviously the big ones. Assistive Technology for All, Older Not Alone, which I'll get into. And I'm missing one. WeAd is the fifth one. There's quite a number of those. I manage those and I can remember them all, which is great. On our social media channels, we had around 53,000 impressions. We're kind of taking a break from Twitter and moving towards Threads. If you know, you know. If you don't, I only have 7 minutes, so don't worry about it. But honestly, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. A lot of our audience is really sitting on Facebook and LinkedIn for kind of community and professional audiences, and I'm sure you can figure out which is which. We also run our COTA Connects and our SRV newsletters, which I've fused into one. They're now monthly. It used to be kind of, depending what you were getting, either quarterly or monthly. Now we're two big happy organizations working as one, so you get all of our news once a month, and there's around 6,000 subscribers, and we have roughly the same amount of social media followers. Since I started in March, we've had 36 appearances in the media between that financial year period, so March, April, May, June, and we issued 13 media releases in that time. To be quite honest, we've probably doubled that in that time since, and when we look at the reporting for next year, I'm going to look really good. This is Chris's favorite slide. I've been making that joke to everyone far too often. A lot of media coverage around our funding issues. So Chris and Rob were out there fighting the good fight for COTA and for seniors' rights in Victoria. We're also doing a lot of that self-driven engagement through the COTA Connects, which is what I was speaking about before, but also COTA Conversations. We've partnered with Golden Days Radio, and every fortnight we're on the radio talking about whatever latest SRV or COTA Vic news bit that is relevant at the time. I'm on there quite a bit at the end of the year because we're so busy, so I hope you like Canadian accents. Quickly, Older Not Alone was one of our big initiatives. We launched it in June officially in partnership with the Victorian government and the MAV, the Municipal Association of Victoria. The crux of the campaign is that there are so many resources for older Victorians. It might be hard to get to some of those, so we were trying to bundle those together in easy to access ways. I like talking about printed materials. There's a whole bunch of printed materials at the front. If you'd like to grab some on your way out, please do, or oldernotalone.com. There's tons more stuff I could talk about. We've already talked about a lot of the stuff that I'm focusing on now. Membership is a big priority for me, the fee for service with SRV, etc. But I think I've clawed back some time, so I'll leave it at that and hand back.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. I'd like to introduce you to Avatar Kamel. She's the manager and principal lawyer at Seniors Rights Victoria.
Hey, good morning. Try to get through this as quickly as possible as well. I'll start by briefly giving you an outline of our practice model. So at SRV, we run a multidisciplinary team, an integrated model of service where our advocates and lawyers work together to support clients who are experiencing or at risk of experiencing elder abuse. So just to give you a bit of an idea about the structure of our workflow. So calls come through our helpline. If the call is from an older person who's experiencing elder abuse, it will then go through to an appointment and then possibly through to casework or file work where a lawyer and advocate will work on it together. Calls also come through from friends, family, concerned others and professionals seeking secondary consults. And they're able to speak with one of our helpline advocates on the phone and get information, referrals and non-legal advice at that stage. They don't get to come through to our appointment stage because, as I said, we only assist the older people themselves, but they are able to receive that preliminary advice and information from our helpline staff. As well as that, we also run education programs and training sessions to raise awareness about elder abuse and to educate community and professionals about recognising and responding to elder abuse and about prevention strategies as well. And recently we've engaged a policy officer who is assisting us with more of the strategy and policy parts around elder abuse. So we're very happy to have him on board as well. I also don't have a team slide because over the last 9 months since I've been here, we've had significant amount of turnover. So unfortunately, I don't think all the names would fit on the slide, but the team that we have now is very good and we're very optimistic about seeing it grow and innovating in the SRV space as well. So in the 22-23 financial year, we responded to 5,085 contacts to our helpline. Most of these were in relation to elder abuse, and the others were in relation to things like seniors cards, aged care, employment and housing. And the total number of calls responded to in the last financial year represents a 45% increase in calls from the 21-22 financial year, which is astronomical considering our staff on the helpline only increased by 1.5 and is now back down, as Chris mentioned, to one full-time role covering that ever increasing number of calls, unfortunately. At the advice stage, financial abuse and psychological abuse were identified as the most common forms of abuse, often presenting concurrently, like with use of threats, coercion, pressuring an older person to hand over assets, and the unauthorised use of bank accounts and powers of attorney, things like that. 32% of our clients indicated that adult children returning home increased their risk of elder abuse. And the majority of advices that we provided indicated that multiple types of abuse were occurring concurrently. And as we progress through the workflow, as I discussed, we try to prioritise the most vulnerable clients, so the ones with the most urgent needs, and the vulnerabilities, the percentage of vulnerability indicators, as you can see on this slide, they tend to increase as the file progresses through our workflow as well. So again, at the file work stage, financial and psychological abuse were the most identified types of abuse, and 73% of clients with an open file had more than one type of elder abuse identified in their matter, which really does increase the complexity and the number of working hours on those files. So I think the average length of a file being opened was around 1 year and 3 months. So that does create a significant amount of work for our lawyers and advocates. And just so you get an idea of how we actually measure our casework outcomes, the 2 themes that you see there are set out in the Federation of Community Legal Centres Outcomes Measurement Framework. So under Access to Justice for All, we're talking about things like disadvantage indicators, access to services, understanding of issues by the client, improved wellbeing for the clients, and increased safety. And under the Empowered Communities section, we're looking at whether clients are more informed at the conclusion of their matters and whether they have a better understanding about their rights, issues, and responsibilities. Community education sessions have increased significantly over the last 6 months, especially since our WEAD event in June. We hosted 2 events as part of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, including a keynote address and a Q&A session with Maria Demopoulos, who is the chair of Safe and Equal, in which we addressed the integration of elder abuse into family violence responses. And we also hosted a community event in Melbourne with guest speaker and author Patricia Edgar, that some of you may have attended. One of the other highlights of our education program was our collaboration with the John Pearce Centre for the Deaf. And as part of this collaboration, JPC staff provided training to our staff around working with the deaf community, and we provided training to their staff around recognising and responding to elder abuse. And the project identified information gaps that existed within the deaf community and focused on the creation of resources and print material and videos as well that were translated into Auslan that were really designed to assist the community to identify and respond to elder abuse and provide them with strategies to prevent elder abuse as well, and where they can go to seek support. A second highlight was our Planning Ahead project. So with funding from the Integrated Service Fund provided through the Federation of Community Legal Centres, we expanded the scope of our project from Ballarat to Shepparton, providing community and professional education around future planning and supported decision making. So as a step to really safeguarding against elder abuse, so one of our prevention strategies as well is the Planning Ahead project. And as part of the project, a set of print resources and video resources were developed to help older people, families, friends, and professionals working with them to understand the importance of future planning and the steps to protecting your rights for the future. And our library of videos was developed in consultation with other organisations like the Office of the Public Advocate, the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria, and the Australian Multicultural Community Services, which resulted in those resources being translated into 25 different languages. And they can all be located on our language hub, which is on the SRV website. So we're very proud of that resource. It is one of the most comprehensive resources in relation to elder abuse. Certainly has been translated into the most languages for such a specific resource. So we're very happy with that. And all right, moving into the new financial year. As you've been told, we have been impacted by funding caps, but we're making progress in a few areas that we're pretty happy about. So first of all, we're thrilled to welcome new staff onto the team to support different parts of our service, including policy and advocacy efforts, certainly our helpline, and our education team as well has, we've engaged new staff there as well. So we're very happy to be at what we have available in terms of full capacity at the moment. Obviously, securing increased and long-term funding is a priority for us, so we can continue to support older Victorians across the state and increase our outreach efforts, which is going to be a priority moving into the new financial year. We've also launched our fee-for-service education program, which has been mentioned before, and really is about providing professional education around recognising and responding to elder abuse. And in October, we hosted our inaugural meeting of the Victorian Elder Abuse Strategic Alliance, which we hope will bring Victorian stakeholders together to focus on advocacy efforts around the prevention of elder abuse as well. And that pretty much sums up, I was just about to be interrupted, so that pretty much sums up our 2022-23 financial year. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. If you want. So whilst Ben is putting the lectern to the side, that essentially concludes just a bit of an insight into what COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria does for our members and our community. Now the formal proceedings commence, and I'm going to hand over the AGM to our Chair and President, Rob Caulfield.
Thank you, Chris. Well, the first thing is fairly simple. It's the minutes of last year's meeting, so many of you will have received those minutes. So what I'm looking for is a motion to approve and adopt the minutes of the 2022 AGM. Any member? Reader? Yes, Peter Clark. Seconder? Brian Bird. And is there anyone that wants to speak against that motion? Against, then we put the motion to a vote. All in favour of accepting the 2022 AGM minutes? The next item is the Treasurer's report, and I'll call on our
Thank you, Rob. On behalf of the board, I have great pleasure in presenting the Treasurer's report for the financial year ended 30 June 2023. The financial statements for the financial year show a net surplus of $168,000 compared to a net deficit of $119,000 in the prior year. This increase is due to the timing and recognition of income and a decrease in payroll expenses. This is a pleasing result for the organisation for the year. Total income for the year of $3.8 million has increased by 5% compared to $3.6 million in the prior year, for the reasons already noted. State and federal government funding represent 96% of total revenue. Total expenses for the year of $3.6 million have remained stable compared to the prior year of $3.7 million. payroll and other employment expenses continue to represent 83% of total expenses. Total current assets are approximately 1.1 million. Down by 32% from the prior year due to timing and the receipt of receivables. Cash assets represent 98% of this balance. There is approximately 500,000 in current liabilities, which includes lease liabilities and grant income received in advance. Overall, the net asset position of 665,000 remains healthy and has increased compared to the prior year by 33%. There has been no significant change in accounting standards during the financial year. Subsequent to year end, there does not appear to be any significant uncertainties with respect to events or conditions which may impact unfavorably on the organisation in future years. Management will continue to assess and implement the decisions necessary to keep the organisation in a healthy financial position and provide a solid base for the next 12 months. The auditors have issued an unqualified audit opinion on the financial statements. There were no uncorrected errors at year end or significant management or internal control issues noted. The Audit and Risk Committee and the board would like to thank the auditor for their service and ongoing support. Finally, I would like to thank the members of the Audit and Risk Committee for their continued commitment and support during the year. Also, I'd like to thank Chris Pataris and Janet Zhang for their support. Thank you. I'd now like to pass a motion to accept the financial statements for the financial year ending 30 June 2023. So could I please ask for a mover for that? Okay. Thank you, Mark. And someone to second that. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the finances before we put it to a vote? Everyone's happy? Good year. All in favour? The next point of business is appointment of the auditor. The auditor for the current year, but for the previous year that we're addressing was the Banks Group. And the proposal is that we appoint the Banks Group as the auditor again for the next current year. So could I have a mover for that, please? Second. Maybe. So move to second. Are there any discussions on that? On the appointment? No discussion. I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? I'll hand back to Chris temporarily for the announcement of board positions.
Thank you, Rob. So just in relation to the announcement of board positions, so in my role as the CEO, Secretary for the company and reporting officer, I confirm having received the exact number of nominations for the positions as required under section 48 of our Constitution. I hence declare the following: Mary Downey, Mark Stokes and Catherine Brown, being eligible for election and re-election, are elected and re-elected for a 3-year term to serve the organisation. I would also like to inform the members of the appointment of Hayley Hunter, Tanya O'Connor, Raymond Cummings and Jared Mansour by the board under section 71 of our Constitution.
That is most of our business apart from any questions. We may have some moderated questions. Check on that. Then while it's happening, we'll have some questions from the floor.
John Lansell. I was wondering if the banks have said in their annual reports or with their speeches that they are actually helping people with their financial abuse. Is this the truth or not, or are they just pleasing the shareholders? And are they cooperating with us, being COTA?
So I might, do you mind just passing the microphone to that? And I'm not handballing, but so Seniors Rights Victoria does work rather closely with some financial institutions and one particular, the big banks. Okay. It's funny you should mention Commonwealth Bank. So
Oh, so I wasn't going to speak to the Commonwealth Bank, but I am aware that the Victoria Police have done a project with the ANZ Bank to help identify and respond to financial abuse that is occurring at the banking front. So I'm not sure if Commonwealth Bank were involved in that trial as well. Well, it's concluded. So I'm not sure. The outcome is that it doesn't seem to have embedded anything that's going to be permanent and ongoing in the banking sector.
It's fair to say, John, that if in fact what their statements are even somewhat true, it would be not even literally it wouldn't even be the tip of the iceberg. It wouldn't even be the algae that forms around the top of the tip of the iceberg. There's an enormous amount of work to do in this space. Certainly not what I'm saying, John. Yeah.
Can I just want to add to that. So this is one of the focuses of something like our fee for service project as well with education, is these are the kind of institutions that we are intending to target to improve their awareness of elder abuse as well, so that they're better able to identify and respond to it, or at least know where to refer people when it's identified. So we're hoping that that will be how the education program that we have developed progresses.
And education is critical in terms of what we do with SRV, Seniors Rights Victoria in particular, because a huge part of education is awareness. So if you go to the community, John, at any time in your own community and ask people about what their definition of elder abuse is, they probably have no idea. But if you tell them someone's ripping you off from the bank, okay, they'll know what that means, but they don't classify that as elder abuse. Okay, so there's an enormous disconnect, not only with people who are suffering it, but places like financial institutions, other financial providers. Oh, please do. Okay. Any other questions, please? Thanks, John. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer any question from the floor. Great, Peter Clark.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I congratulate you and the board on an excellent array of contributors. I was looking at the report and it's quite impressive. However, there is a notable absence. There is no private sector funding coming through. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, sure is. That's a really good question. So one of the things that I'll be communicating rather overtly to our members in particular from early next year, so from January onwards, is we're currently, when I say we, I mean myself as the CEO and the board in particular, are in the process of working with another organisation, a legal organisation, to rewrite our constitution. A big part of that, Peter, is membership. So we've completely restructured the membership services model, the membership categories, paid categories, free categories. The for-profit or commercial sector is a huge target of ours moving forward. Okay? And that aligns with very much the value proposition an organisation like us represent to a for-profit or a commercial entity, like a bank or other institution as an example, where they have to contribute a certain amount of corporate social responsibility time to a not-for-profit or charity. We need to be that entity that they support. Okay? And we need to provide a model around that, not only to say, well, here's your means of providing financial support to a charity like us or the peak body, but they'll always ask, you know, the old, what's in it for me? Okay, this is life. So we have to provide a suite of membership services and benefits that align with specific membership categories for for-profits or commercial entities. So that's a huge piece of work. The model's already done. You just haven't seen it. Okay? And that, again, I'll give you the strategic value of that. The strategic value is that that then aligns with the board and my strategic objective of diversifying our revenue streams and minimizing the amount of reliance we have on state government funding. Because it only takes one really terrible state budget like this one for us to realize, hey, we might be in trouble here. So we're completely mitigating against that, lowering that risk. So really good question, Peter, but it's coming, if that makes sense.
So watch this space. Yep. So this time next year, we'll have you have a report in our supporters that there'll be quite a number of private enterprises filling up the categories of W. To John, get back to your question, maybe we'll have a shot at Westpac Bank.
No, I don't intend to. Okay, good, really good question, Peter. Any other questions, please? Anything you like, I'm happy to answer. This is the forum to do it.
And there's still time if you're online just to either email or put it in the chat and we'll take a look. There's no online questions, but this is your prompt, online people.
Online people we want to hear from.
Yeah. Any other burning questions from the floor? I'm happy to open full transparency here. We're happy to answer any questions. Yes, Peter again.
I'm very interested from Omni's perspective in the older not alone branding. I went to the launch and immediately I saw a terrific connect to the Omni program, which I'm very keen about. I wonder, Steve, whether you could explain how best we can combine our efforts under that banner.
I think and Chris can certainly speak to it. All right.
No, just when you're happy, hand up.
Sure. We've done the work. That's the best part with the Older Not Alone campaign. The idea is to get as many existing resources as we can. You guys are also the poster children. Thank you. So if you go to the community brochure, you'll see some smiling Omni faces. But the idea is to try to get as many tools and support mechanisms for any older Victorian out there. Maybe it's the chatty cafe that's going to appeal to someone because you can go once a week or once a fortnight or a month, depending on the schedule, and just go and sit down at a table that's been registered as conversation friendly and meet someone new and have a conversation. It could be Omni that suits this person in need. It could be they're having trouble paying their electricity bill. That's the word. And there's support schemes financially. There's the community-based ones. There's a highlight on elder abuse and all the organizations that can assist people who are experiencing or want to help recognize elder abuse in families or neighbors or communities. I feel like I'm getting away from the question, but I think in terms of the direct question, we've kind of done our part and we're doing the promotion of Omni through Older Not Alone to anyone that is listening. And there are lots of people listening and visiting the website.
The only thing I'll add, Peter, and all that's spot on. The only thing I'll add is that your point to the nexus of the connection, correlation between social isolation and what Omni stands for is really critical. Okay? So that narrative has never really been scripted, to be honest. And we know the immense benefit that the Omni groups provide. But what we haven't done is given that narrative yet, okay? And shown that what that nexus of connection is. Okay? And that nexus of connection is critical because not only could Omni save lives, but certainly reduce the prevalence of social isolation, which is one of the big pros and positive aspects or outcomes of Omni. And what we haven't done as an organisation, because my team is so stretched, we have no funding, is to allocate that analytical research time that Omni so deserves. So we can go to government and go to others and say, well, this is the value proposition. And yes, it looks very similar to men's share, but here is the value of it. We're in 28 groups across Victoria, predominantly the southeast. Let's go into the northwest. Let's go into the western north, where there's no Omni groups. All that has to be defined and linked to things like social isolation. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Double check, and while Steve's double checking, can I just also invite? What we're going to do is all the food we have down the back. Please don't leave it with us. It's really important because it's important you're here to spend time together, have a chat with our staff. So Steve and a couple of our staff members are going to grab all those trays. They're going to put them out here in the kitchen. I invite all of you to go out there and stay and enjoy coffee. There's hot water there because we need to continue the meeting here. So
Well, there's no more questions. We haven't heard anything from the online people. We know you're there. Very quiet. You must be happy. We're happy about that. So I'd like to declare Victoria, Seniors Rights Victoria closed. Thank you very much for attending, and looking forward to see you all even better you next year.